Hi everyone, this is Eunice Leong. Recently, I've been using some online educational tools for my lessons online. I find it very interesting, so I'm giving a run through on how I actually do this particular online lesson, because online lesson, if it's just PowerPoint, Zoom meetings, or sharing screen, it can be actually quite boring, and we need to keep engaging students since they are actually studying at home. So let's get down to the tools that I actually use. Now, there are a lot of technologies out there for us to learn and to teach students and make it interesting for them online. So for this topic that I actually use is actually for KBSM syllabus, Form 5 Physics Chapter 2 Electricity, under the subtopic of 2.2 Analyzing the Relationship between Electric Current and Potential Difference. Now, the learning outcome that I'm going to be using for today, there's 4 learning outcomes that I need to achieve. Number 1, define potential difference. Number 2, describe the relationship between current and potential difference. Number 3, state Ohm's law. And number 4, plan and conduct an experiment to find the relationship between current and potential difference. Now, there are some teachers going to be wondering, how is my students going to achieve the learning outcome to plan and conduct an experiment? I'll show you in a short while. Now, the applications that I'm going to use for the assessment is number 1, Neoport. It's an instructional platform with a formative assessment. Students find it very interesting when we actually assess them and learn through Neoport. The next application that I use for experiment especially is the FAT interactive simulation. There are over 158 types of interactive simulations that we can use especially for science lesson. Now, the last applications that I'm going to use is actually Canva. Canva is actually an online-based designing applications that help students or teachers or anyone out there to design creative and professional-looking designs. Next, the other applications that I use is actually using Zoom. It's a video conferencing for synchronized lesson. And I use Google Classroom for a web-based platform for a synchronous lesson, especially for my students who can't join in the Zoom meetings. Now, let's go to the example of lessons that I'm going to use. Okay, this is for Neoport. Now, in Neoport, there is 2 types of mode. You can either use the live mode or you can use the student paste mode. You just have to paste the link into Google Classroom or send a link to the students, and they will actually appear in this particular session. So I'm going to write my name here, alright, and I'm going to join the session in. So I'm going to go through what is actually in here. Now, for the introduction of my lesson, I actually use a virtual reality 360 degrees image of the hydro generation dam in US. So students can actually look into this, and this is actually a very good interesting way for students to see how does a hydroelectric dam can actually looks like. Then next, I use a 3D version, right, a virtual reality of the hydro generation dam. And I can even go into this particular image. Alright, this is how the generator looks like in the hydroelectric dam. Then next is where I have the introduction of my lesson. Okay, and then I have my learning objective for this particular Neoport. Then before I start, I gave students an open-ended questions of what do they think is potential difference. So students can actually write their answers here, and they can even listen to my voice. Now that's me narrating the question. So students can submit the question or can escape. This is a YouTube video explaining what is electric potential difference, so I don't have to keep explaining. And then after the video, I have the content slides. Students will actually read through it, or they can hit the play button to actually listen to me explaining the whole entire slide. So I'm just going to go next. After watching the video and also looking at the content slide, once again, I ask them to define potential difference. Then I can see what is the effect before and after they actually watch the video and the content slide. Now next is actually the effect of potential difference on current. This is one of the FAT simulation that has been embedded into Neoport. So I give this particular slide to show students how to actually use the FAT simulation. So let's go to the FAT simulation and see. As you can see, it's trying to run right now. So once it's running, students can actually play with the slider and they can actually see what happens to the formula and also the current. Right, next, okay, I have a fill in the blanks so that students can actually fill in what do they think of the question from the lesson that they look at the simulation from the FAT simulation. Okay, so they will actually fill it up. So I'm going to try to fill this up randomly. Okay, Ohm's law, given that resistance is, let's just say, constant, the potential difference increases. Oops. And the current will also increase. Done. See, I get 4 out of 4 correct answers. So next, I'm gonna see instructions on watching the video, and I already prompt here a question will be asked after the video, so need to pay attention to the video. This way students will actually pay more attention to the video that is being showed out. So they just have to hit the play button from YouTube, and it's actually a video regarding Ohm's law. So after that, I explained this particular content again, and then for this part, this is a draw it question. So write the formula for Ohm's law. Students can actually scribble what they want about Ohm's law, and they can actually, once they're done, they can actually hit the submit button, or they can actually put photos in here. Okay, so let's go next. Okay, this is another assessment that actually that is actually part of the Neoport. This is a matching pair. So match the physical quantity with the unit. Students just have to click charge with column with the corresponding SI unit. Potential difference unit is, where is it? Let's see. Potential difference units is in volts. Resistance is ohms. Alright, so on and so forth. I'm gonna go next. Now, this is actually the slide to tell that there's going to be a test after this particular site. So students will have to get yourself ready. So once we click next, right, this is the final quiz that I actually put in Neoport. Students can choose the character. So I'm just going to choose one of the character. And then I go next. And I click start here. So we're going to start with a quiz. So this is a very fun quiz because if you have a lot of people joining in, then it's going to be a very interesting quiz to go through. Alright, so I'm just going to keep going next. And I have a final survey here for the students' opinion for Neoport. So that is the end of Neoport. The next application that I actually use is the FAT simulation. This simulation, there are a lot of simulations here that we can use, but I'm going to go into physics under electricity because students have to plan and carry out an experiment to find out the relationship between electric current and potential difference. So the applications that I'm going to use is the circuit construction kit, the DC virtual lab. As you can see, this is the HTML5 model format. There are other formats as well, but if you want to directly use online, then you have to find the one that has this HTML5 symbol. So I'm going to click on that particular simulation, alright, and click it again. So it's going to load the FAT interactive simulation right now. Okay, so here is the simulation that students can carry out the virtual experiment. So all they have to do is just drag the devices from the left hand side and then connect it using the wire. Alright, so I'm just going to drag and drop and then connect the wires. So if I want the values, I just have to click on the values here. Then we can see that the battery is 9 volts and the light bulb is actually 10 ohms. So students can actually vary the value over here and see what happens to the light bulb. Okay. Lastly is actually Canva application. So Canva application, it's actually for students to design any possible application there is. So you can actually click school design, then you can have poster infographics. So I allow students to go and survey by themselves how to actually present out their final report. So I'm going to go back here. Alright, so Canva, this is where the students use it. Right, students result. Now let me show you what are the results given by my students. Now this is the results from Neoport. Okay, so once the students have already done with Neoport, they can actually see you can actually print out the results from the report part, and you can see their questions before and after. Now this is the open-ended question before and after the YouTube video was actually given. And let's just say for Amisha, for example, you see the response for potential difference before watching the video and after watching the video. It is already, there is a change of accuracy for the definition. So she did actually learn from the video and also the explanation slides. There are also other reports that we can actually see from here. There's class boards for the last final quiz. Now the next results I can show you is actually from Canva. This is the presentation for the virtual experiment carried out by the students. So this is actually from one of my students. She used infographics. Everything can be seen in one slide. Or students can actually use presentations this way. Okay, they can actually show it. Or this is actually a PowerPoint slides version that is actually created from Canva. Okay, this is another infographic. So students have a lot of choices that they can actually use to present their experiments report finding. So it's better than seeing a paper pencil report that students normally copy. This way students can have a variety of choices. So next I'm going to explain to you the feedbacks that I get from my students when using these applications online. Now from Neoport, students find it interactive, they find it engaging, they find it very interesting to use. Some of them are excited to use the virtual reality and the interactive quizzes in there. The objective learning is very clear and they actually obtained it very easily. They learned about Ohm's law through the simulation from PhET, interactive simulation, and one of them actually mentioned that they are able to learn the concept without the apparatus in the lab. The teacher's explanation and simulation throughout the whole entire learning, because remember there's an audio over there, and it catches interest easily in Neoport. Next is the feedback from the PhET interactive simulation. Using the PhET interactive simulation, students find it easily to understand the concept, but majority of them actually prefer using the actual apparatus at the physical lab in school, right? But since we are going towards online learning, so PhET simulation to them it's user friendly, it less burden them compared to physical work, and it's very easy to set up the experiment and to carry out their virtual experiment. They gain factual knowledge while learning at home, and it actually satisfies curiosity for some of them because they can actually test what happens if the battery is at that maximum potential or the voltage. And it's very easy to understand the concept behind every single simulation and also the physical quantity. Now, for feedback on Canva, the designing application, students find it very excited. They find it's able to express their creativity. It's very user-friendly and also it is very interesting for them. Using Canva, it's a different method for them to report their findings and different approach to presentation compared to the normal traditional paper and base report writing. But some students find it time consuming because they have to choose the best words or the best design, or they might find that they want to make things even more creative, so it's a bit time consuming. But once you know how to use Canva, it's very good. Now there's one student who actually said that some have to pay. That's because they didn't notice that there are actually a free version of Canva usage and also the pro version. So if you were to click a photo that is in the pro version, obviously you have to pay. Alright, so the reflection from this application that have been used is that the tools are more student-centered, whereby students can get to use the application by themselves without the teacher controlling them. The formative assessment is very interactive. It allows immediate feedback, And there's virtual experiment. The preparation is easy, but even though it's lacking the manipulative skills, but student actually learns the concept. And the report presentation using Canva is very refreshing and allows creativity from the students. Now, as a conclusion from my particular lesson, I use this online application is that even though we are going towards online learning, but assessment for learning can also be done via online. So it's an important process to identify students' misconception, evaluate their understanding and their readiness for the next lesson. So that is actually my conclusion. I hope the introduction of the few applications for this lesson is interesting enough for you to actually go through it. If you want to know how to use the application, there are also videos that is actually done by me that if you want to go through. So that's all from me today. Alright, so I hope you've learned something and I hope this sharing is good enough for you. So that's it for today. Bye.